I don't even need to ask how you guys are doing. I know how you're doing, unless you're in a short. I know how you're doing. You're feeling good today, baby. Another immaculate pumpage day all the way throughout the crypto market. Some winners bigger than others, but at the end of the day, you throw a dart at this board and you are likely a big winner on the day. Bitcoin looking to potentially test the highs this week. Ethereum running on a monumental move that nobody expected, currently testing that $2,700 key resistance level. Our leverage trade on SUI is absolutely killing it. Inflation data came in less than expected today. That is huge and gives Jerome Powell, who speaks on Thursday, a lot of leverage when it comes to potentially cutting rates earlier than we originally expected. I was like, the light's not on. The light's not on, baby. Woo! But yeah, man, we are feeling good in this market. Shout out to each and every single one of you guys that are here today, hopping on in the chat early. Sin Nasty Kid, Wanda, appreciate you guys being here. You guys are absolute legends. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. We're going to start where we do every single day here, and we're going to start with BTC. Good old Bitcoin, the king of assets, baby. And regardless of whether you're here to look at altcoins, it's very, very important to look at Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin, at the end of the day, whether you're in anything in the top 100 or 200, 300, you got to respect Bitcoin and its actions, right? If we have a green day on Bitcoin, likely your altcoin's green. If you have a red day on Bitcoin, more than likely your altcoin's red. So it's very, very important that if you're to understand that if you're invested in these altcoins, that Bitcoin is still going to likely drive whether you're a winner or a loser. The altcoins just are Bitcoin's move amplified, right? To a certain percent, in a way of saying the altcoins are just a Bitcoin move, but amplified, right? Based on speculation. So yes, baby, let's dive on into BTC. Let's zoom on out here on the daily and see what's going on. We have a beautiful, it will close in 2 hours. If we could get this candle body closed just a bit higher, I'd love to see it close over 104.5. But a close here, I'll take it. We're being, it looks so good, ladies and gentlemen. I'll say that. It really does. I'll be honest. I watched a lot of YouTubers today. I was sitting down. I was watching streams, just kind of relaxing. And, I was hearing a lot of, well, there's definitely going to be a deep retracement. Watch out for the double top, all that kind of stuff. And I just don't see, I get that we could have a pullback. I totally understand that. But it didn't seem like anybody was talking about the all-time highs potentially. I was watching Mitch Ray, and he was talking about potentially this week. But besides him, man, I don't know. I don't know why people are so scared at these price levels. We've touched there once, twice. Very rarely do you see a triple top in crypto. And when this thing gets going, if you're sitting on the sidelines, you could get absolutely left behind in the dust and be put in a horrible situation like we talked about the last couple days, where you want to get into altcoins, but they're running without you and you have no idea where to get in, like what you deem is a fair value for that altcoin. Is it just going to keep ripping to the moon? You didn't get in at the lows. You had 2 months to get in at the lows on our box of remembrance, maybe on total 3. Some people chose not to, right? Some people chose not to, and now they're wondering, oh, well, how do I get an altcoin? Why do you want to be in now after we've pumped massively? The move arguably already happened for a lot of the alts, and even if you get in right now, your overall percentage gain over the course of the entire bull market is going to be significantly lower, regardless of whatever project you're diving on into. But Bitcoin looking so juicy, baby, over the daily 200 SMA. We get that close above the daily 200 SMA, and honestly, we haven't hardly had any pullback. You get above the daily 200 SMA and you're looking to go for a ride, baby. Look what happened the last time, right? Does this not look very, very similar to the last time? Get above the daily 200 SMA, a little bit of a pullback, another pump to the upside, a little bit of a pullback, and then that's the run that cracks the prior high right here. Looks so similar, does it not? It just looks so juicy for a squeeze to the upside. Bitcoin looks ripe. It looks ready to go. The economic conditions support that. We have the trade war potentially coming to an end this week, which would be absolutely crazy. We're going to get a little more details as Donald Trump comes out throughout the course of the week and explains the US-China trade deal in a little bit more in depth. But right now, what I'm seeing on BTC, a bullish engulfing candle on the daily looks absolutely beautiful. That liquidity grab yesterday at 101 feels so good right now if you did not get shaken out by that horrific move to the downside. But with that move to the downside, we did establish, you could argue that this wick is going to be support here on this new range, this potential new range. We've ranged, and now we're above this point of control. We're above the point of control. We're above the point of control of this micro range that we have up here, and it looks like we're good. It looks like we're ready to go, and I'm not saying that we're all in the clear. I would watch this daily 21 moving average as it comes up in the price action. The daily stochastics are pointing down, but with that being said, they have the potential to curve here. And you can't be afraid of overbought stochastic RSI. From this entire move up here, we were overbought the entire time. We were overbought from 84,000 all the way up to 97. So when you get pinned in the overbought region, you can continue to go on that monumental run. And I think a run like that is coming very, very soon for BTC. 21 curving up in the price action, higher highs, higher lows. I like what I'm seeing. We're above the point of control. I would not want to see us close a daily candle below 96,000. That's not something that I'm tracking right now, but something that we have to keep on our radar is this is the point of control of the range. As long as we're above the point of control, we're now deviating up to those highs. And you know, with this candle here, you could argue like in the next $1,000, a $2,000 move for Bitcoin would be nothing in the span of an hour or 2 hours, right? There's a potential that this daily candle close is the highest we've ever had, right? Up here to about 106,286, the highest daily candle close that we've ever had for BTC sits just 2% above us. That's a move that Bitcoin can make in the span of 2 hours. So we'll see. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying that right here as we consolidate, and this may be a flag, it may take a couple more days, right? But as we consolidate, and we don't know what this flag is going to look like, but right now it's looking like a sideways flag. We can fill this out here. We could fill this out and move further to the upside as a 21 comes up in the price action. That would absolutely be beautiful for a blue skies breakout to the upside for BTC. And that would allow the daily stochastics to reset as well. Consolidation going sideways, these stochastics will come down, curve, and that would look absolutely beautiful to the upside. So I'm saying that, the reason I'm saying that is I think it's likely that we consolidate here, but we're so close to the all-time high. Like the Asian trading session could take us right there. The New York session tomorrow could take us right there. Fed Chair Jerome Powell announcing rate cuts, that will take us right there and beyond. You know, if he does that, you know, and I'm not saying that he will. They don't have the Fed meeting or anything, but we'll get a glimpse of his tone, right, based off of this recent inflation data that has come in lower than expected. It gives him more wiggle room to cut rates, and nobody expects him to cut rates right now. That's what's so funny. It's like the market is doing the exact opposite of what the majority expect it to do, as the market does, right? As the market does. Scared a lot of people out down here. Let's look at something that I wanted to peek at. I wanted to look at before the stream. Fear and greed got updated yesterday, sitting at 70, the same area that we've been at. Very, very interesting. So we did not move since yesterday, and this will update in about 2 hours. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this start ticking up into the green for sure. Isn't it crazy how last month we were down here? We were at what? We hit a 10 or a 9. Right? That was historically the best time to accumulate some of your favorite assets in the game. A 9? And people said, no, it's going to 0. And then that ticker goes up. Now you're in greed, and you missed out on the opportunity to purchase Bitcoin at what could have been what I think was the higher low in the series of the bull market, baby. The higher series, the higher low in the series that is going to be the 2025 bull market. So that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. If you break it down on the smaller time frames, on the 15-minute, we're consolidating above the 15-minute 200 SMA, losing a little bit of strength here as we started the stream, but this could definitely be a flag here that does form out, and we get another punch to the upside. Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. It's been that way all day, and then we could get a squeeze to the upside. We can, as long as we maintain above that 15-minute 200 SMA. I think we're above all of them, are we not? Let's see, the 1 minute, we just lost the 1 minute, a little bit of a warning sign right there. Nothing to be too worried about. And the 3 and all the other 200 MAs sit beneath us. I think Bitcoin's poised right now, poised for a move to the upside. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking, and what this channel is going to kind of turn into, right? We're going to look at Bitcoin every single day, but we're going to talk about the altcoins more. Why? Because dominance is giving way hard. We talked about it. BTC.dominance. So that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. I see a potential potential flag moving further to the upside. We start playing 200 MA dominoes throughout the night. That could be a little worrisome. I think we stock futures just opened 10 minutes ago. So we'll see how that goes. And then the Asian trading session starts in about 2 to 3 hours. So very, very interesting time for BTC and the markets, right? The NASDAQ screamed, the S&P 500 screamed to the upside today. And I think it's very, very likely we continue. Yesterday, we had BTC in this flag. Did we not? We had BTC in this flag. Or, you know, you could even say, we called this the last 2 times it dumped to the downside. You had a flag here, flag, dump to the downside, flag. Nice flagpole. Where's this going to take us? Likely to take us all the way down here to about 61.79. We also talked about this one. This one retraced to 618786. I wouldn't be surprised if this one did the same. Touch to 618 and drop. From here, swing high to swing low. Where'd you go? You touched the 706 right there and then drop. That golden pocket is your best friend, baby. It is your best friend. And now Bitcoin dominance continues to drop to the downside. On the daily, looks absolutely horrendous. And that is good for your altcoins dropping, likely to come down and test this 200 MA. I saw a lot of people today too said, oh, this is just a pullback. This is just a pullback. It's looking bad on the weekly. That was a bearish engulfing candle, and now you're going to start engulfing the last 2 months of price action. The 21 is still coming up, but you start rolling over from here. It really does look like Bitcoin dominance is top. Look at this weekly bearish divergence as well. Swing up on price action while you have a swing down on the RSI. Weekly bearish divergence is nothing to mess around with. That could easily drop us below 54.67%. And that's when, woo, what just happened there, baby? What just happened there? Got into my internet history. Oh my goodness. All right, so yeah, that looks very, very good for a drop to the downside, baby. We cracked that low before we cracked that high. It's not BOYCECRYPTO saying it. It's the weekly bearish divergence that is screaming at us in the face after we just rejected off of almost the 786 got front run on that Bitcoin dominance, baby. But we just got rejected out of this inverted cup and handle off of the golden pocket from the swing low, from the swing high to the low, baby. We came all the way up here and just the 786 got front ran. So many people, I bet, were waiting for that 786. And the market loves to do the exact opposite of what the masses like to do, right? We got the reaction off the 618 to the downside, had that mini alt season. This was when your random altcoin pumped back here in November, and now we're getting that rollover again on the weekly. I think this is going to be an extended altcoin season, baby. I think it's going to happen in the span of about 3 to 4 months, and at the end of that 3 to 4 month segment, man, it can get juicy, baby, juicy. And what's the leader of the altcoins, baby? Let's talk about, we have to talk about Ethereum. This is a historical move, baby. This is a historical move for Ethereum, engulfing the last 2 days of price action, pushing on, putting a lot of pressure on that daily 200 SMA. Now, I've heard a lot. I'll jump into the chat in a second, everybody. I've heard a lot about Ethereum all-time highs and everything, and you know, that could definitely be on the table. I think it's a little too early to say, right? I think it is a little too early to say why. We zoom out here. Let's zoom on out here on the weekly, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Beautiful weekly candles, getting above the weekly 200, testing on the daily 200. Where's my VRVP? And yes, now you're going to come up in this high volume cluster. The high volume nodes represent where the most amount of Ethereum has been traded, and that does coincide with our bearish 618-786 golden pocket Fibonacci. I'm not saying it's crypto. We could blow right through that, but I want to put that on your radar, right? Because if we are going to put in a lower high, the likely area would be right here in the 618-786. That being said, Ethereum still has a mountain to go until we get up to the 786, about another 31% move to the upside. And I'm not saying we're going to dump from there, but I do think we're going to get a little bit of turbulence in this action before we go further to the upside in the event Bitcoin dominance continues to roll over. Ethereum is the number 2 altcoin. Let us not forget, despite its struggles that it's had over the past 6 months, which have been massive since the blow off up here at about $4,000. You know, and it's crazy that the high back here in 2021 up at 4,800. Can Ethereum retest the highs? Absolutely. This thing's been on a historic move. The number 2 altcoin does not often move 50% in a week, over 50%. Where is this? One of the biggest bubbles on here, is it not? ETH, baby, Ethereum. Where is it? 50% this week, 48.9% this week on the bubbles. Looking good for continuation to the upside as at 21 curves. I don't see this being a massive, like, continued rally like that. I don't think the chart's going to go straight vertical. However, I've never seen a move like this on Ethereum. Not like this, not off the lows. You often get some kind of choppy price action, but you have honestly a little bit of a V-shaped recovery going on right here. Donald Trump, World Liberty Finance owns it, and it's the major part of their portfolio. Vitalik Buterin coming in and saying he's going to upgrade the network to heck. That's very, very bullish for Ethereum, and not just Ethereum, all the memes. Pepe screaming to the upside, the number one meme on Ethereum. The Ethereum ecosystem is definitely showing some strength and taking a lot back from Bitcoin. ETH BTC looks to absolutely moon here. Look at this chart right here. Look at this chart, not this chart here on the weekly, although that does show it, you know, over the course of time how Bitcoin has done, and we've seen rallies like this. We've seen rallies like this for ETH BTC, but, you know, on the daily, we're coming up to the daily 200 SMA, likely to be tested here. Even on the 30-minute, you can see how beautiful of an uptrend this is. The 21 has supported price action. We never cracked. You cracked that 30-minute 200 SMA. You cracked the 15, I'll bet, and you went on a monster rampage. The 30-minute has not been cracked since you were down here at 0.0189. Now Ethereum gaining about, yes, it's crazy, about 37% on BTC. That is a monstrous move for Ethereum. And I think the altcoins are definitely following Ethereum and arguably its lead. Do I think it's going to revisit the highs? Absolutely. But I think there's going to be a little bit of a slowdown / sideways consolidation before we get there. But Ethereum's approaching that $2,700 level. And that's why I'm so glad we're positioned, everybody. I have to be glad that we're positioned because right now you got to argue, hey, when's a good time? If someone said, hey, Boys Crypto, when's a good time to get into Ethereum? When's a good time to get into Ethereum? Well, I would have said, I would have said, hey, the 618786 from the swing low down here, that's when I would have gotten into Ethereum, right? The 618786, if you were betting on a rally, right, on spot, you got down here, and the 786 didn't even hold up right here. But if you would have averaged in on this zone, you would be in the money right here. You would be in the money. Even if you got in at these support zones down here, the high volume nodes that were screaming at us in the face, and could we have gone lower? Absolutely. Was I calling for the reversal on Ethereum? No, I was not calling for the reversal on Ethereum. It was looking like the weakest chart in the game, and now we have new fresh data coming out, baby. And, you know, Ethereum is taking back the reins right here on the altcoins, screaming to the upside, looking to test that daily 200 SMA. And I think this is like a FOMO style rally. You don't see this. For a lot of people that don't understand how much money this is, the amount of money that is poured into Ethereum over the past 4 days is about equivalent to the market cap of Solana. That's how much money has flown to the entire Solana ecosystem was poured into Ethereum in about 4 to 5 days. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So yeah, we'll see. Look at this on the 7-day. You see nothing like this in the top 7, in the top 10. Dude, up 50%, Bitcoin up 10. You know, you got a 24 here for Solana, Dogecoin doing really well, up 40, Sui up 28, right? But you hardly see anything. Pi Network making a charge to the upside. I got sketched feelings about Pi, everybody. I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to stay away. It gives me the heebie-jeebies, just a project in and of itself. I liked it. I did like it, but I don't like the violent price swings that we're seeing at a multi-billion-dollar valuation. I really don't. And you can mine it on your phone. And look at this. This is the thing that really, really scares me right here. Look at this. Right? Circulating supply, 7.1% is on the market. That is low. That is less than 10% of the supply that is out. Very, very interesting for Pi Network. It'll come out over time, but that to me is very, it just sketches me out. And I hope it does well. I think it can do well on a sustained altcoin rally. But man, I don't know. It gives me the heebie-jeebies, and I don't think it's gonna do. I don't think it's gonna break into the top 10 or anything like that. But I've been wrong. I've been wrong before, right? I've been wrong before. So hey, Pi could potentially. That's crazy. It has more of a more than HBAR, hyper liquid, and market cap. That's absolutely wild. Wait, why is this here? Oh, this should be higher than this. It's got to update. But interesting. All right, everybody, let's hop on into the chat. Thank you for sticking with me. We kind of went over Bitcoin dominance, Ethereum. We could go into things a little bit more in depth, but I want to hear these altcoins, baby. I want to hear these altcoins. What do you guys want to go over? What are you looking at? What's hot? PMG Corey, thanks for being here. Wanda, Sin Nasty Kid, I appreciate it. April, I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for being here. Yeah, PMG Corey, that's one side of the argument. Get in now. You can't wait now, right? I would never want to be, because the downside risk, right, off of something that rallied like this in 5 days, even if you get a 20, we come back down to $2,000, that would be a 618, 786 retrace. Would that not be healthy, right, to make that higher low at 786? But is that going to happen, right? Are we going to get a pullback like that? You're risking 38% of your wealth at that point, right? Or whatever you put into Ethereum. That's why I'm so glad that we're positioned, man. Oh my goodness. Like I wouldn't want to make that decision, right? It's just not a decision I want to have to make. And we were looking at weekly and daily bullish divergence in the face on the 3-day as well on total 3, and we got the reversal, baby. And now the alts are really, really screaming. That was the time. We had 2 months. If you invested in altcoins at any time in the top almost like 200 in the last 2 months, you are up massively in the money because you would have gotten in amongst the time of maximum fear. All right, everybody, let's dive on it. Can't wait for Bitcoin to rip. I think it could happen. I think it could happen soon as potentially tonight, man. I think Bitcoin has some massive legs. I think there's potential for it to go sideways. But look at this weekly, like getting eaten up like that. The daily bullish engulfing right here at 104.252. Let's look at it on the smaller timer. I think this thing has some massive legs to do some damage throughout the night. The Asian trading session is going to wake up, and you got to wonder, there is going to be a singular. Look at Ethereum at $2,700 right now. Massive. The daily 200 sitting at 2701. You're right there. You're kissing it right now, baby. You're kissing it. So, yeah, there's going to be a market session, and it could be when we're awake, or it could be when we're asleep, but there's going to be a market session that kicks this thing up over the all-time high. Last time, it was during prior to the Asian session when we went up on that run to 110,000. It wasn't the U.S. session that did it. It was the Asian session. So are we going to get that kind of reaction from the Asian markets tonight? I would love to see it, and I know everybody here would love to see it as well. Bitcoin looks absolutely beautiful, man. Even on the 15-minute, you broke above that 15-minute 200 MA, and you went to the upside, baby, as a 21 came up in the price action. You did get a little bit of a stop hunt right there earlier this morning. I remember that. I was like, ooh, as the market opened, it started to dump. And then the NASDAQ, the NQ, S&P 500, everything rallied massively on that inflation data. Everybody expecting, it's crazy. Everybody expecting those rate cuts now. And I don't blame people, right? Like, it's an environment where Jerome Powell has a lot more leverage to cut rates. We cut rates, and we're going to see markets boom. It's just a reality we live in, right? Every time you get a rate cut, it's like, oh yeah, we're more liquidity is being injected in the market. Let's go, baby, to the upside. So that's how the markets see it, and that's why we had that massive rally throughout the day. All right, baby, let's dive on in. Wanda wants to, or ETH finally making a move. Yeah, PMG Corey, couldn't agree with you. And PMG Corey, that's one side of the argument, brother. And I would be in FOMO mode right now. I would have to be. I have to be in FOMO mode. If I were trying to get into altcoins or something, you're waiting on a potentially game-changing altcoin season that could change your life. Yeah, and you're risking 28-35% to the downside. You had to have some serious balls to get in at the bottom. You really did. And shout out to each and every single one of you guys that did. We don't want to be in that. We didn't want to be in that situation, right? We didn't want to miss the rally. And I wouldn't want to be in that situation, man. I just wouldn't. But you're breaking above. I would, if you're looking at a coin right now and you're looking at breaking the daily 200 SMA, that's what I would be looking for confirmation that this bull run is going to continue for your coin, right? For your coin. Just something that I would keep in mind. The meme coins look to squeeze. The meme coins did squeeze over the past couple of days, and you see a couple here, there, and everywhere that are massively popping. And you go into the meme coins, you could hit this area right in here. 40% for this one right here. Look at these over the course, or let's hit the daily right here. Yeah, like some of these up 65, 28% on the day. Some massive runners on the day. Griffin making a run to the upside. AI, baby. The AI space, I think, is going to do massively. Jelly, whatever this is. Jelly my jelly up 100%. But RDAC down 50. You know, it's crazy the volatility you can see in some of these coins. All right. Here we go. All right, so yeah, so we got that. House sounded like a Chinese fire drill for 2 hours. Your wife wasn't happy. Yeah, all the alarms, man. The trading view alarms going off. I got one on virtuals last night. It was like, doo-doo. We put those levels on the chart, and it was like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Well, that was like earlier this morning, but yeah. It's crazy. I hear you, Sineskid. I hear you. Unicorn fart dust. Yeah, PMG Corey. Let's dive on into it. So Unicorn fart dust was who's that guy that's in the garage? I've seen him a couple times here on YouTube. I think this is the right one, right? UFD Unicorn fart dust. Let me double check you. Let me double check me. Unicorn, dang. UFD, yep. All right, 531 in market cap. Let's dive on into it. So Unicorn fart dust, one of the hotter memes, right? I remember when this thing came out, man. This thing went on an absolute tear to the upside. Something basement, some dude's basement, something. He has like 60,000 subscribers. He was talking about this coin, and this thing went massively, parabolic to the upside. And this was just since it was, listed on TradingView at 287% pump. I don't think that's even accurate. Let me look here. Unicorn fart dust. Yeah, 59 million in liquidity, 4 months in. Oh, it may be a little accurate here. Yeah, so since the inception, way back in the day, baby. Way back in the day. Yeah, you went on a cataclysmic run to the upside. This thing went 4,700%, right? You can see down here, you could have got it in at half a penny, and then it ran all the way up to 28 cents, and it went further than that, all the way up to 47 cents. If you want to see big gains in this space, and you have the risk appetite for it, this is what you got to look at. You got to look at small market caps like this. You got to be trying to find the next meme coin in the space that's going to break into the top 100. This cracks into the top 100, baby. This would need to a $500 million market. This would need a 10x just to get into the top 100. And it's a hot meme coin with a good narrative, and that YouTube channel is behind it. Very, very interesting. So Unicorn fart dust, let's break it down. Let's break down the charts, baby. Let's dive on into it. All right, so the first thing that I see right off the get-go, you got above, let's see it, the 4 hour, you got above the 4 hour 200 SMA, and you really never went back here. You are forming a little bit of bearish divergence, something to keep in mind, but I've seen it time and time again. I've seen it time and time again on the meme coins. When these things get frothy, when these things get real frothy, and you broke the conversion line right there for the RSI indicator. When these things get incredibly frothy, and there's mass FOMO in the space, and you get a community buying up a token that has the potential to have been shorted massively to the downside, this is something that you could trade on leverage as well. So there's definitely short positions in from this entire run to the downside, leading all the way back up to 41 cents. You're currently sitting at 6, just under 6. So to think that there's not shorts in here layered betting on this thing going to zero is kind of crazy, right? And right now, even as we're talking right now, breaking out to a high right here. This is not all-time high breakout, but this is a breakout of the highs. It could continue to run. These things have some massive potential to squeeze to the upside. Do I think all the meme coins are going to go back to the highs? Absolutely not. No way. I just don't. There's not enough money in the space to make that happen. If you notice that one meme coin went to the moon, right, and then massively fell off, and then the next meme coin would go to the moon, massively fell off, mass consolidation, but they don't all run 100, 200, 300% at a time in cohesion with one another, except for right now, except for the environment we're in right now, where there's so many shorts in the space, and a lot of the meme market there was so much short interest in the meme market, it allowed for squeezes on a lot of the hotter coins in the space. This thing's up massively since the lows. We're at the lows down here at about 2 cents, and you're up massively. I know Chill Guy made a very, very similar move, 189%. I think Chill Guy's up like 4x right now. Absolutely crazy from the lows. Unicorn fart dust moving to the upside. These things are very, very tradable. Although I don't hold memes in my long-term portfolio, they are definitely tradable. All right, so that's it on the 15-minute time frame. You're looking for a blue skies in a way breakout right here. You'd have to zoom out to the daily to get potential targets. So let's do that. So zooming out on the daily, where's the last area that you had? And it's crazy. I don't even have the VRVP up here. Like the VRVP doesn't load for this asset. All right, so the next area that I have here is the last area that you topped off, sitting all the way up here at about 8 cents. That's still a monumental move from here, and the squeeze potential is massive. And if you look at it, right, if you look at it, you do have kind of a Adam and Eve, a little bit of a nice rounded bottom right there. Looks very, very good. It is slanted. It is slanted. I'll give you that. But you got that slanted Adam and Eve. These things like to break out absolutely massively to the upside. Breaking that line right there, that resistance, looks good to go to the upside. I think 8 cents is coming for Unicorn Fart Dust, especially if Bitcoin holds up where it is. And I think a lot of FOMO is going to come into this space. Like imagine if you wanted to get into this coin, right? Where is a good place to enter? And PMG Corey, you're right, man. Like it's like, are you going to get in now and miss the entire run? Because if it gets up to here, then your risk is even higher, right? And the 21 supporting price action, you have all the bullish signs in the market, right? The U.S.-Chinese trade deal massively pumped the market. You have inflation is lower than expected, and it gives Fed Chairman Jerome Powell room to cut rates. That's going to bring speculative assets back online, baby. And gold will likely, I think, stall out in this area as well. Why do I think gold is likely to top out? Man, I even want to put a little channel here. I even want to put a little bit of a channel, and this is something that can be respected over the course of the night, right? You get up here, down here, and then move out of an inverted shoulder head, right shoulder that would form inside of this channel right here. Look for a breakout, retest, and move. That's how the altcoins will move, or that's how the meme coins will move anyway. Massive, massive, explosive opportunity to the upside for Unicorn Fart Dust. Don't be surprised if you wake up tomorrow morning and this thing's 100% up from where it is, sitting at around 10 cents. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if anything has the squeeze potential to the upside, it's Unicorn Fart Dust right now, currently trying to break out of this little range that you have here. So I would be watching this very, very closely. I don't know if you're invested personally, PMG Corey, but man, if you are, this thing is screaming. This thing is absolutely screaming. Shout out to you. Thank you for being here and putting this on our radar. It's the Mexi's futures chart I'm looking at as well. All right, everybody. Moon Degen, man, Moon Degen was crazy. Moon Degen went absolutely crazy. I think we looked at it last night. I think we did look at it last night. And on the hourly, look at this thing. And we talked about a flag, boom, pop to the upside. You're going to flag and pop, flag and plop, flag and plop. Flag and pop, baby, to the upside until you don't. This reminds me a lot of the move that XCN had. You had that flag pop. You have a flagpole here. And this thing gets steep. Look how steep these flagpoles are. The measured moves for these are actually crazy. They're absolutely crazy. And this is another thing that you can kind of see right here. You can see it right here. This is what I'm talking about when you're in these patterns. You got that inverted shoulder head. Right shoulder out of the flag and boom to the upside. Looked absolutely beautiful. Are running into a little bit of divergence right here. You can see that. You have a swing down on price action or on the RSI while you have a swing up. That's looking kind of crazy right now. You have a swing down on the RSI right here while you have a swing up on price action. That's something to keep in mind if you're looking to trade on the 1 hour. And honestly, for Moon Degen, if you're thinking about getting, oh man. If you're thinking about getting into this thing, I don't give financial advice. Do whatever you guys want with your money, but man, I would have to see more consolidation than this. To me, I wouldn't be jumping on this boat. Like anything, even a minor correction down to this support level, that's a 25% dump. And it could run again. But it's not something that I'd be willing to take a position on unless you're doing some high leverage scalping, and unless you're in from down here. You know, you got above. This little line right here is going to be your daily 200 SMA. So you're above that, but you pumped for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days straight. Look at that, squeezing all the price action for the last 4 months, 5 months of time in the span of a week. That's why it's so dangerous to short things when they're getting super low and cracking their low. Like, it's so dangerous because in a week you could go on vacation, right? Come back and be like, I was liquidated. What happened? I was liquidated in the charts. What happened? Yeah, and that squeeze to the upside was massive. You're going to get super overbought on these meme coins. The stochastics are going to pin overbought in the RSI. It's going to get absolutely crazy and frothy in the market. Do I think this thing can continue? Absolutely it can. You got bearish divergence so rearing in your face, and you're just already so off the highs, right? Like, even if you invested in anything, right? And I'm not saying not to get in this coin. I'm not saying not to get into it. But you're up 6x. So when people start selling, the people down here, even if it falls 50%, there's still a 3x in profit. When people start selling, it takes 1/6 the amount of sellers, right? Or the amount of sell volume to take this down 50%, and then still the majority of people would still be in profit. That's like what, 1/6? That's like what, 17%, right? 17% of all the people that are in profit. You're betting that just 17% won't take profit right here, and it's just not something that I'd be willing to risk right now. But Moody Gen is massively screaming to the upside. Shout out to you guys, whoever got into that. I don't know if PMG was talking about it, man, but this thing screamed to the upside. If you're looking to trade this on the smaller time frames, you could wait for a flag here on the 4 hour, but just off of these candles right here, I wouldn't be touching this thing until I got more price data. I really, really wouldn't. I'd wait for another flag to form out and the 21 to come up in the price action. That would be my next area that I'd be interested in taking a high leverage scalp to the upside on a meme coin, baby. On a meme coin. Looks juicy. So Moody Gen, I know D-Gen pumped massively. That same narrative went absolutely crazy over the last few days. All right. Diving on in, we got Wanda wants to go into Render. Yeah, absolutely. Render, it is my 4th biggest altcoin holding, Render. Let's look at Render here. So Render, we were averaging in here back at our box of remembrance. You know, I don't have a box of remembrance here on the charts, but we're averaging back in this $3 range. You're feeling pretty good right now as you have doubled up on your investments. It's absolutely crazy the moves that this alt run can manifest, right? It really is. A beautiful candle today, bullishly engulfing like a lot of the other altcoins and like Bitcoin, bullishly engulfing the candle before it. Coming up to test that daily 200 SMA. Would not be surprised if you get a little bit of consolidation, baby. Consolidation beneath here before you go and you make that move. I think the next move for Render is going to be absolutely massive. Why do I say that? Look at this giant gap you're gapping through as you speak. The last area of resistance you got right here is at about 585, that daily 200 SMA, which you've tapped only one time already. But this giant gap in the VRVP says to me that people weren't selling in here. This wasn't people selling. This was people getting liquidated and stopped out to the downside. That entire move, that entire week, essentially right here, the biggest liquidation event in crypto history on February 3rd. I think this thing has massive legs to the upside. Big liquidation, cascading liquidation events to the downside often mean massive liquidation events to the upside. The market maker is going to come after both longs and shorts, baby. Just think about it. In 5 days, the market maker was able to take out all the shorts that have accumulated in the past 4 to 5 months in the crypto market if you're in any kind of altcoin that rallied off the lows. Crazy. But looking beautiful, Wanda, looking beautiful. Got that giant gap here in the VRVP. I see continuation for Render, maybe a little bit of sideways consolidation, and that's okay. Don't be afraid. Look, that's going to be something that makes people lose money in this market. I will tell you this. People are going to lose money in this market doing this. Getting up here and seeing, oh, Render only pumped what? Render only pumped 7% today. But, Pepe pumped 30%. So Pepe's obviously the hot horse. And then selling your Render, jumping on in the Pepe. And then the next day, Pepe does nothing and then Render moves, right? So have your conviction in your plays. Things are going to go sideways. There's going to be consolidation. And oftentimes when you have rips, right? When you have rips, the odds of the next day being a rip are relatively low. They're relatively low. But where's the money going to flow? Into things that have not moved yet or have consolidated over the course of time, right? So very, very important not to chase these green candles. It's so important here in the market. Very, very important. All right. That's Render for you, Wanda. You're just consolidating below the daily 200 SMA on the 15-minute. You're looking absolutely gorgeous here, being supported by the 21. We talk about this all the time. You get about that 15-minute 200 MA, and oftentimes you just don't look back for a long time. You haven't looked back all day. Honestly, 3% gain from that 200 MA cross. And you didn't get that full candle body right here, right? You got a candle close, but you didn't get that full candle body, and you went continuation to the upside. Looks good. Potential flag right now, Wanda. potential flag right now. We don't know how it's going to pan out, but this looks really, really juicy for another leg up for render. I think that's very, very likely as we go throughout the night. And as dominance continues to topple, you'll start noticing that even if Bitcoin price goes down, right, say it goes to 102K tonight, if your altcoin's at the same price, that's so good, because when Bitcoin pumps, you're going to get that massive altcoin move that you've been waiting for. Even if your altcoin's sitting at that same price, just Bitcoin's lower. That's what happens when Bitcoin dominance starts to roll, and then that's what will allow FOMO to dive on into the altcoin space when Bitcoin does eventually get the move. It's important to understand that even though it's altcoin season, Bitcoin still runs this show, baby. Bitcoin still runs this show. It could go sideways. Altcoins can pump. Very rarely are you going to see a 1-3% dump on Bitcoin and altcoins rally 10-20%. Very rarely you'll see that, even in alt season. All right, that's render for you, Wanda. Shout out to you. Unicorn Fart Dust, we went over that. Yeah, we went over, yes, a lot of coin. Hey, I appreciate you guys lighting up the chat. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you. Yeah, so rotating money, let's see, 100% scalp, but that was in the middle. Hey, yeah, I was ripping. You risked it. Hey, man, yeah, so, you're going to catch some hot setups, man. You're going to catch some hot setups. And sometimes, honestly, as traders, like if you get lucky, you get lucky. You take your money and you walk away from the market. You take it when the market gives it to you, because the market will take it back, baby. The market will take it back. I'll say this on the meme coins, right? I could look at anything out of the top 100, trying to think of one. Let's look at Chill Guy real quick. Do I think Chill Guy is going to revisit the hot? No, I do not, right? I just don't think that. I don't think it has the juice. I don't think it has that moment. Look at the weekly. This will not retrace to the highs. You had, some kind of insider, everybody dumping. It's been crazy. Everybody rode the hype train and it died, right? I don't think that Chill Guy meme's ever going to come back. I'm actually grateful for that, because I don't ever want to see those things going around my Twitter again. I don't want to see the Chill Guy, those little tilting little memes where it's like, right? And it's like, it's saying something dumb like, when you spilled your milk in the cafeteria, right? But I'm just a chill guy, right? The market's dumping, and my wife's about to leave me because I didn't have enough money to pay for, the kids' school lunches. And then it's like, but I'm just a chill guy. That, I never want to see that stuff again, guys. I'm telling you. I don't know. But you guys know how I feel about the meme coins. Do I think a lot of them are going to revisit their highs? No. Do I think 1, 2, 3 of them may? Absolutely. That potential is there. And I do think that there's going to be 1 or 2 meme coins that do break their way into the top 100 this cycle. I think that is very, very likely. What meme coins those are? Couldn't tell you guys. I have no idea. If I knew, I'd be in there. I'd be in there like swimwear, they say. But yeah. So you're on a parabolic run right now for Chill Guy, right? You're on a parabolic. This is a parabolic move. You are so far away from the daily 21. Even if you've pulled back 50%, you'd have to pull back 52% just to touch the daily 21 SMA. So the odds, I think these memes, eventually, Bitcoin pulls back 1%. I think you're going to see a big red candle to the downside, right, on a lot of these memes. I'm not saying all of them, but I think a massive bearish engulfing candle, right? Even if you pump further, and I think you can pump further on these memes with the short squeeze to the upside, but eventually the cookie will crumble. And why do I say that? Zoom on out. Is the chart just going to go like even here, you can see it on the way down. Those squeezes, right? These were big moves. These were no joke moves. These were 12% to the upside, right? These moves right here on your way down, these were big moves, right? This was a 67% pump to the upside. You can get those moves to the downside, and the people who got in at the lows are still going to be in massive profit. Very important to understand about the meme coins, especially the ones that have run like Chill Guy. Chill Guy up from April 23rd, up 419%, massively overextended. I expect a pullback for this coin sooner rather than later, but if the advertising goes up, if they get the hype back, sure, like it could continue to run. And is this the one that breaks back into the top 100? It could be, maybe, right? But it's just not where I'm willing to, it's not an egg that's in my basket, baby. We just had Easter. It's not an egg that's in my basket. All right, diving on in. All right. Yeah, scalping the meme, that's the way to go, man. I agree, Sinesky. Scalping the memes and let them run, man. Like, I think just a risk in that. And if you want to let a runner, you let a runner, man. You let a runner. It is what it is, and maybe it does outperform, and you make a large, massive amount of money on it. But the odds of that happening are very, very, very low. If you're going into the meme coin market and you're like, I'm gonna find the next 1000x. That's the probability of that happening is very, very slim to none. It's like going in the casino and expecting to hit the jackpot. Very, very rarely does it happen. Does it happen to people? Absolutely. And is that where you're going to have to find the gains? Where if you were trying to make $1 million tonight, how would you do it? I would have to go to the casino and hit something ridiculous, right? That's the only way I could do it. Just like the meme coin market, if you want to make a ridiculous amount of money in a very, very short amount of time and you want to hit a 100 or 1000x, nothing in the top 100 is going to 100x. Nothing in the top 100 is going to 1000x. This is the stuff you got to look at, right? This is the stuff you got to look at. And even if you're looking at, 100 or 1000x, and you'd have to get in from down here, right? Because like your risk reward, you only have, if you buy up here for Chill Guy with the same amount of money, right? This person's $2,000 is now equivalent to what you would have put in with 10 grand up here. You'd have the same amount of Chill Guy. $2,000, same amount of Chill Guy equals $10,000, same amount of Chill Guy. You'll both have the same amount of Chill Guy. Very, very important to understand that. All right, everybody, let's dive on in. Yeah, scalp's the way to go. Say Nasty Kid, couldn't agree with you. Rounded bottoms pay the bills. Absolutely, PMG Corey, a great saying here in the crypto market. Yeah, you start seeing rounded bottoms or those Adam and Eves. That's where you want to start paying attention, setting alerts on your chart. Very, very, very important. Oftentimes it's not good to like FOMO in, right? To FOMO into anything, but wait for consolidation and have a plan. If you're like, hey, I understand that this is going to be a 618. This is where I want a long, and you wait patiently for that. That trade's going to pay out more often than not, and you wouldn't have gotten stopped had you chased the highs. All right, let's see. The king of break even. Hey, yeah, I got you guys. Yeah, whenever you're in a massive profit, baby, you bring that thing to break even, and you are good to go. You take the risk off the table when you can, baby. Take the risk off the table when you can. Wanda wants to look at Sui. Sui, the only leverage play we currently have going on right now and looking juicy. Man, it fires me up. Now, this is a great example. Sui didn't have the move that the rest of the altcoin market had today, did it not? Let's see, where's Sui at? Sui had a 2.4% move. ENA had a 15%, right? LDO, Optimism, 10% moves. And, Ethereum name service, of course, Arbitrum making massive move. Chainlink making a 5% move. So Chainlink only had a 2.4% move today. Am I concerned? No, absolutely not. So you know what's crazy? And I'll just pull up a random coin. Let's pull up ENA. ENA. I'll pull this up here just for reference, right? ENA here. All right. So let's pull it up on 8 hour, baby. 8 hour. No, hey, I may have just, no, that's looking too similar. I'm trying to find something that pumped massively today that hasn't been pumping over the course of the week. But it's going to be hard to do that because the majority of the market has been absolutely ripping. Yeah, so I'm going to put that thought on the back burner. Maybe Ethereum. Maybe Ethereum will do it for me. Let's see here. All right, so and here's why I bring this up. Why Ethereum's oversold on the 8-hour time frame? That's crazy. That is crazy. Look at Ethereum, the stochastic. My thought process was very, very different. Here's what I was thinking, right? So this allows you, and I guess we could look at it on the 4-hour looks so similar. Okay, I'll use this example. All right. So the 4-hour. Let's look at the 4-hour on Sui versus the 4-hour on Ethereum. So the stochastics RSI oscillator, right? We're sitting below 50 for Sui, but Ethereum is already touching the overbought levels. Can Ethereum continue to squeeze? Absolutely. But when you're seeing things violently pointing up in the upward direction, you want to see what has a lot more room to go, right, for a potential move to the upside, in my opinion. And not what I'm saying, like investing in whatever, but that's the reason things shift from day to day, right? When Ethereum had a massive pump today, tomorrow it may not. And then a lot of the other coins that are, Polkadot, Nexo, Walrus, Polygon may pump tomorrow, Ondo, Cardano, and then PulseX may be down 1 or 2%. Why? Because it had that massive run to the upside in the span of a single day. So money's going to rotate throughout this market. Very, very, very important to understand, baby. Very important to understand. But Sui looks absolutely amazing, Wanda. All day we've been pumping. Ever since that we got that good CPI data, we pumped up to $4 and we never looked back. And you know, we're above the point of control of this range, and this was the range that I've kind of been looking at here for Sui. We deviated below the range, took out those stops, right? All the stops that built up in down here got absolutely wrecked with that candle right there. You did get a double bottom on the 4-hour time frame, and we've been ripping to the upside. We reclaimed the point of control in 21. The 21 is supporting price action to the upside. I see the 21 continuing to curve as Sui makes a monumental move over the next coming, I'd say the next 2 days. I think Sui's going to at least test the high of this range at 422. If not, break out of it. We're above the point of control. There's nothing bearish about Sui right now. The stochastics are reset, especially on the higher time frames, 8-hour, 12-hour time, 12 hours coming down. But the 8-hour looks really, really juicy for continuation to the upside. And the 21 on the 8-hour is with price action as well, just getting that cross on the stochastics oscillator. I do acknowledge this on Sui, and I did notice this today too. We are on Sui. This is important to understand. This is important to look at. We are forming a very, very massive bearish divergence. Look at this. We're making higher highs while we're swinging down on the RSI indicator. Can this be invalidated? Absolutely. And that would be one of the most bullish things you've ever seen in this market if this bearish divergence gets invalidated. It's lasted for over a week, 2 weeks of time. That bearish divergence has formed out. Looks very, very good for Sui for continuation of the upside. And we talk about it all the time on the channel. You invalidate bearish divergence, right, on a macro time frame like the daily, like we talked about, you invalidate daily bullish divergence and you drop to the downside, you're looking to get a steep drop. It's the exact same thing if you invalidate bearish divergence to the upside. Just look at XRP, right, on its monumental move back in November, had bearish divergence the entire time. That kept getting invalidated. You invalidate it, you squeeze. You invalidate it, you squeeze. Why? Because a lot of shorts open up when that bearish divergence does rear its ugly head, and you get that squeeze to the upside. So very, very interesting. Woo! No, hey, Sin Nasty Kid. I didn't think you were crazy, man. I didn't think you were crazy for putting that short idea out, brother. I was saying that, hey, a lot of traders or a lot of people that are trying to get into this market right now aren't thinking about the downside risk, right? So opening up a short or looking at shorts in that scenario was an amazing, it was a good perspective from a trader mindset, right? Where I'm looking for continuation trades and I'm not interested in shorting the market, the downside risk to reward is increasing as we get more overextended, right? As we overextend on these rallies, the downside, right? The downside, even as you have, like, if you catch bearish divergence, right? And you had bearish divergence here, invalidated, got the squeeze, but now you have another set potentially rearing here for Ethereum on the 4-hour time frame. You catch a squeeze to the downside, right? And you go on a stop hunt, which is very, very common here in the crypto markets, right? Even if you go and you crack that low, that's a 10% move, and on leverage, that could be absolutely massive. And you could get some juicy risk to reward trade setups when you're looking for the short side. When you're looking for longs right now, your risk to rewards are gonna be a little less without like your risk to rewards. Where are you gonna put your stop losses, right? That's the thing. If you're gonna long Ethereum right now, where's your stop loss at? Below this low? That'd be, if I were a whale, if I were someone looking to take out the maximum stop losses, I'd come down here for this low right here at 2200, and then I'd rip it to the upside. That's what I do if I was a whale, right? Because people have their stop losses here, You could tell that by just looking at the charts, and by looking for a short, right? By looking for a short, you could potentially take advantage of what would be a capitulating event. You trigger those stops, you'll likely trigger them into here. You'll get that wick, right? And that would be a 6-to-1 risk reward ratio trade. And I would not blame any trader for taking that. So yeah, man. Hey, shout out to you. The reason I was saying that, I wasn't saying crazy. I wasn't saying you were crazy. I was saying that a lot of people that are viewing the market right now will be like, you're crazy. You're shorting this market when we're absolutely ripping to the upside, right? That's the same mindset people had. What, you're crazy. We're longing when we're dropping so hard, right? When we were at the lows. So it's interesting, man. It's interesting, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I didn't mean, I wasn't poking fun at you or anything, man. I was honestly saying that I think it was a good idea to have that mindset that you had yesterday. So shout out to you. Yeah, some of those shorts definitely gonna be paying as you start redistributing money throughout the altcoins and throughout, even on from BTC to the alts, baby. All right. Let's dive on in. Let's dive on in. What indicates that it's invalidated? Yeah, PMG Court. Yeah, I got you, man. I got you. Right. So whenever you have bearish divergence, that's invalidated, right? So a bearish divergence right here on Ethereum is from this swing high, right? You have a swing up in price action while you have a swing down on the RSI, right? That's confirmed by this bending down beneath your mark line as well. So you had this bearish divergence. This bearish divergence says that you're likely to crack this low before you crack this high, right? And we never did that, right? We never came down and cracked that low. We cracked the high, and then the likelihood of that squeeze potential, if you would disregard that wick, you get above that bearish divergence again, and you can squeeze massively. That candle, that last candle for Ethereum was massive above the highs of where that bearish divergence did come into play. So that's how I view divergence, man. Whenever divergence is invalidated, and I'll show you what I mean on XRP. Right? On its move to the upside, XRP did form some massive divergence. Right back here. And I'll show you what I mean, baby. I'll show you what I mean. So XRP was showing some massive bearish divergence, right? The first example that comes to my mind is right here. XRP showed some massive, let me clear the charts out of here so it looks a little clearer. XRP shows some massive bearish divergence on the daily, right? On this move to the upside, you had that swing up on price action, while you had that swing down on the RSI, and it started to curve, got below your signal line right there, right? That purple line crossing below your signal line, mark line crossing below the signal line. A clear bearish divergence here on the daily that suggests you crack this low before you crack this high. The bearish divergence was invalidated when you crack this high. So from a shorting perspective, you want to get as close to this high as you can when this RSI starts to curve to the downside in order to make the best risk-reward ratio trades happen. So when people were shorting XRP, right, they often put their stops above where that bearish divergence would be invalidated. And they did. And when XRP wrecked through that, on the daily, you pumped another 71% to the upside. So that's what invalidating bearish divergence means, especially on the larger time frames. And you can see it, right? Another thing that that kind of pops into my mind on virtuals, right? When we were trending downwards for virtuals. So you had bullish divergence form a couple of times here on the way down for virtuals. So you had bullish divergence that did form right here. You got little reactions, right? Bullish divergence. You have a swing up on the RSI. Well, you have a swing down on the price action. So right here, let me zoom on in on this so you can see it, right? So that's clear bullish divergence. You did get a little bit of a reaction, but the minute you invalidated, right? That bullish divergence suggested you crack this high, before you crack this low. You did not do that. And the second that bullish divergence was invalidated, you get that steep drop to the downside, another 43% to the downside when that daily bullish divergence was invalidated. That's what I talk about when I talk about bearish divergence being invalidated. You're likely to squeeze to the upside. Bullish divergence getting invalidated, and I'm talking about on the macro time frames, which would be the 8-hour plus. To me, whenever you get divergence like that, that's that strong and it gets invalidated, that really shows that the bears are in control, and the bears took control here on virtuals, another 43% to the downside ever since that daily bullish divergence did form. Very, very interesting. So yeah, that's what I mean, man. Whenever the bearish or bullish divergence gets invalidated, it means cracking the level, right, that divergence is suggesting. It suggests that you crack this high before you crack this low. You got the reversal right here. The ideal entry from a short perspective would be, hey, try and get up as close as you can to this wick right here. You'd be going against a bullish divergence, but in the event that bullish divergence were to fail, you would have cashed in on some massive gains to the downside, a 60% move for virtuals. So that's what I'm looking at. With that being said, it works the same way. If you flip the charts, right? If you flip these upside down, that's the same thing. Bearish divergence, right? Forming, you made a higher high with a lower high on the RSI. You failed to break that low and you went on a massive squeeze to the upside. So that's what I'm referring to whenever bearish or bullish divergence gets invalidated. I appreciate the question, brother. I appreciate the question. If I miss anything, baby, if I miss anything in the chat, you guys just say it again, because there's a lot of chat tonight. I appreciate you guys. We went over Sui. Yes, and Nasty Kid, much love to you, brother. Looking for shorts right here is not necessarily a bad idea, especially like, look, on Sui, I'm still holding my long from down here at 325, but like the bearish divergence suggests you crack this low before you crack this high. Do I think that's going to happen? Not necessarily. Not with a daily bullish engulfing candle likely to close here in the 21 moving up in the price action. We're above the 200 SMA. So invalidating that bearish divergence would lead to what? A massive squeeze to the upside. I think that could potentially take us back up to close to that $5 region. I think the next 475 is going to be our likely struggle zone. I think that's where the next high volume node sits. Yeah, at about up here at about 473. That's my next zone. I think SUI is likely to go up to, and right now, yeah, we got rejected off of this high volume node sitting at about 418. So we'll see if we can squeeze past that. But if we invalidate that bearish divergence that's forming on the daily and we crack up here and we get super overbought, that's where the screaming to the upside starts to happen. Solana back in 2021 did the same thing. Invalidated bearish divergence, bearish divergence, bearish divergence, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze from $20 all the way up to 200, baby, to 200 for the Solana 2021 run. I see a very similar run happening like that for SUI, baby, for SUI. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, that's how I tell if it's invalidated. PMG Corey, much love to you, brother. Much love to you. Thank you for being here. All right, so I want to talk about Thursday real quick. Look, this week, right, I don't know why this isn't on here, but CPI came in, CPI year over year, this instead of 2.4, it came in at 2.3. I don't know why they don't have that updated right here, but my point being, less inflation than was expected. Very, very good for the potential for cutting rates. Tomorrow, I think it's going to be a nothing burger, you know, a bunch of people speaking and whatnot, whatever. Nothing I think that's going to impact the markets. Here, Thursday is your big kahuna, as they say it in, I think that's Hawaii, right? Your big kahuna in Honolulu, whatever they say. But yeah, this on Thursday is going to be a massive, massive news-driven economic day. We have everything coming in at 8:30, and there's I bet my bottom dollar there's going to be massive volatility during this time. Because why? What happens if these major events start contradicting each other? It's going to take, I'd say it'd take about an hour after, you know, after data, I'd say until 10:30, next hour, an hour and a half after 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, the market is just going to go absolutely insane. I'm not saying a massive pump or a dump, but I'm saying massive whipsaw price action as the whales take advantage of opium and despair as these numbers come in likely off of estimate, much like CPI did today, which caused a massive rally to the upside. We have initial jobless claims, U.S. retail sales. That's more important for the S&P 500, but we got to understand that Bitcoin likes to trade in cohesion with it. And it's crazy how Bitcoin's been outperforming the S&P 500. That's wild. We have core PPI, the same thing that we got today with the perspective of the seller, right? We talked about inflation with the exception of food and energy from the perspective of the buyer, but now we're going to be talking about what the seller's costs are, how much the seller's costs have increased, right? How much the seller's costs have increased going on over the course of the past month or so. And then we'll get the year over year as well, which is going to be very, very interesting. And then what else do we have? Yeah, the big kahuna, baby. 10 minutes after all that data, right? And I bet the reporters are going to kick him in the teeth with this data because he's going to have no time to analyze it, and they're just going to throw stuff at him like tomatoes up on that podium. This isn't the Fed minutes. This isn't anything like that. But we do have Fed Chair Jerome Powell coming out to speak at 8:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Going to be very, very important to tune on into this meeting and understand where Jerome Powell's head is when it comes to rate cuts. I think rate cuts are coming soon. I think they're very, very likely based on the most recent set of data that we got here. And, you know, that could all change. That could all change at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. So it's going to be a monstrous day in the markets. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of low volume come on in tomorrow. There'll be a lot of whipsaw price action, us not to go anywhere, trade sideways, maybe a little bit of dip. And Bitcoin and the alts to sweep some of that liquidity potentially. But I don't see a lot of volume coming on in tomorrow, baby. I'd see everything coming on in on Thursday, and there's nothing on Friday, hardly anything on Friday. Consumer sentiment, what is this little gnat thing? I keep seeing it flying around. What in the world? But consumer sentiment comes in. That's not really it's kind of a nothing burger to me. But comparatively to Thursday, Thursday is going to be massive. We have like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 major economic events coming up on Thursday. Keep that on your watch, everybody. People will be stopped out. People will be liquidated. People are going to be leveraging up on both sides with like 250,000x leverage, betting on the, the 0.2% move. People are going to do it, and they're going to get squeezed in both ways before we move anyway. So I recommend not trading in that first 10 minutes of price action, because it's just gonna wreck you. It's gonna absolutely wreck you. Or in my experience, I haven't had any success trading in the first 15 minutes of the New York session open, and with data. Oh, yeah, good luck to you guys if you're doing that, but it's gambling, not trading, if you're trading during that time, in my opinion, especially if you're betting on the results of these. Gambling, straight gambling. Some people love to gamble, baby, but yeah. All right, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Jasmine still in the long since April 25th. Hey, brother, yeah, Jasmine screaming to the upside. Wouldn't be surprised if we got more of a pump a lump today. Wow, had a pretty strong candle today. That is a very, very strong candle when you have a giant wick to the downside and you come up and you close just at about where we closed yesterday on the day. Jasmine looking very, very good, playing 200 MA dominoes to the upside. Are you not? Consolidating quite nicely. And, these things can get some juicy moves over the course of the night. When the Asian session opens, all hands are off. That's when volume comes back on into the market, baby. I see this as a symmetrical triangle right here. Not symmetrical. This would be an ascending triangle right here. And these things can break out massively parabolically, right? Massively parabolically. Yeah, from your it'd be from your base to your base to wherever your trough is, I guess you could say. And this potentially also does set up in the next couple hours of a shoulder ahead, and potentially a little right shoulder here off the resistance line and up through this symmetrical, this ascending triangle, baby. Looks good to me for continuation from Jasmine, from where you stand up to the pumpage, up to the measured move, brings you to about 13%. I think that's very, very likely. Jasmine is getting a move, baby. Look at this on the 1 hour time frame, just cataclysmic, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, a much greater higher high, and this thing can extend much further. I think that is very, very likely here for Jasmine. I think some of these alts could do some massive damage. I think, yeah, that would come up to the 1.618. I think that'd be a very likely move for Jasmine throughout the night. And if you're looking for the hottest entry, and you're not going to get the hottest entry tonight. The hottest entry was Sin Nasty Kid from April 25th, baby. April 25th, man, where were you at down here? April 25th. This is where you're sitting. Sin Nasty Kid got in at this time, right? All right, yeah, and he went through some pain, right? Of course he went through some pain. Some sideways consolidation, price action, dip below, probably crapped himself a little bit. It is what it is. And then you got that massive rip to the upside. Unrealized losses are not losses. Realized losses are losses. Very important to understand that. And you likely got a 618, 786 out of this from the swing low to the high, did you not? You got the golden pocket retrace and boom, to the upside. Looking to come up and test that daily 200 SMA. And you guys know how I feel about the daily 200 SMA. You get above that, and that's bull market on, baby. That's a bull market on. Look what happened back here where you fell below. This was news driven. I could tell you without even knowing what day this was, January 30th, that was the strategic reserve. And then you had the China tariffs the next day and a massive capitulation event, or maybe that was this. Yeah, that was this. Okay, so you had the strategic reserve and then the Chinese tariffs. This was the massive liquidation event that we had, the biggest liquidation event that we had in crypto history, when this was that 618 shooting star pattern that we have on Bitcoin dominance. You can see that right here. As altcoins were crashing, Bitcoin dominance went to the upside as people feared being in the altcoins, dropping below that daily 200 SMA, ran into Bitcoin, and then you got that snap up, right? So very, very, very interesting. But you get above the daily 200 SMA for Jasmine, even after a meteoric run from down here. Look, to get to the 200 MA, you pump 45%, and you're going to pump it more from down here up to where you are, 183%. But my point being, when you're above the daily 200 SMA, look, you got above here, boom, to the upside. You got below, trouble. You got above, boom. You got below, trouble. You get above, I'm saying that, and for those of you who haven't been here in prior markets, Jasmine can move, baby. It can move. It can move. Getting above that daily 200 SMA, you get a massive short squeeze to the upside. Likely a lot of shorts sitting up here during that mass capitulation event. All these, arguably this entire zone here, this zone right here, if you can see that on the VRVP on the side, this zone is in confluence with the biggest liquidation event in history. That's that candle right there. This zone right? Jasmine never recovered from that, and there's a giant gap that sits here above those candles. Very, very interesting. That is the lowest area of volume right here for Jasmine. I think a squeeze is very, very likely. Look at that above the point of control here. Let's zoom on out and get an accurate point of control. You're coming out to the point of control, which you're at it right now. You're at it right now. Look at you sitting on the point of control. The bulls look to be taking control of it based off of that wick to the downside. I know that's small, but it's the only way I can see it here based off of zooming out. That looks good. You're sitting right at the point of control, likely to come up and test the daily 200 SMA. I see Jasmine continuing further to the upside to at least test the daily 200 SMA, sitting at about 23 or 0.023, baby, 0.023. You get above that, close a whole daily candle, and you can get a massive squeeze to the upside. All right, much love, everybody. Much love. Yeah, smash that like button, everybody. If you guys have not smashed that like button already, it does help me out. It does help the channel expand and grow, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. But looks absolutely juicy for Jasmine. Corey, yeah, I've seen you the last couple days, man. You've been calling some massive, massive longs. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. All right. Going on over into Total 3, this is something I want to look at before we head out of here, baby. Before we head out of here, Total 3 continuing on its rampage to the upside on the daily, getting above that daily 200 SMA and never looking back. This is where we were averaging on into the altcoins, baby, and we're going to remember this box of remembrance when we're remembering history from when we were remembering up here when we're sitting at about a $2 to $3 trillion market cap, which I see this market going to once we crack the prior highs. You know, that is our previous double top here. This is our double top. This is the most money that's ever been in the altcoin market ever at about $1.11 trillion. I see us coming for that. I see us coming for that very, very fast. You get that golden cross on the daily and you can get a meteoric altcoin season. This was back here in November when we pumped about 85% for your random altcoin in the top 1,000. Very, very interesting. I think this thing could squeeze massively, and with Ethereum leading the way, I see altcoin seasons here, and I see us being right around here, baby, for that massive move to the upside. And this is why I'd be nervous. This is why I'd be not nervous for us right here in the Bitcoin community. But if you're not positioned, look at this move right here to the downside. That's a 10% drop. You lose 10% of your money in the course of 48 hours. That would put fear in people. So hey, shout out to each and every single one of you guys getting in here on the lows off of that weekly, was it weekly? No, that daily bullish divergence. And it was absolutely awesome. We got that daily bullish divergence that did form here. And we got that massive rocket shot to the upside. Awesome, everybody. Shout out to you guys for catching that. We're above the daily 200 SMA, and we're gapping through this VRVP like butter, baby. The next stop for Total 3, I see being at about $1.07 trillion. That's this range that we had up here in confluence with this high volume node sitting up at about 1.07. We get there. It's only a matter of time, ladies and gentlemen. Only a matter of time before we crack that. This will be a double top scenario. This will be as if XRP cranked through that $3.30 resistance level. What do you guys think will happen for XRP when it does that? Or if it does that, right, should I say? It's the same kind of move you could expect for Total 3 out of the inverted shoulder, head right shoulder to the upside, screaming for Total 3. I think the altcoins look ready. The altcoins look to run as Bitcoin dominance continues to flag to the downside, flag to the downside, flag to the downside until it does not anymore. So this looks absolutely awesome. Your fibs are your friends. Your fibs are your friends, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll get this out of here. Fibs are your friends on this Bitcoin dominance chart. Do I see a reversal? Absolutely not. Not after a 2-year uptrend. Golden pocket, dump. Golden pocket, dump. Where's your next area? Well, you pull it from here, right? If you are, and you're going to take this all the way down to wherever Bitcoin dominance dumps to throughout the night. If it does continue to dump, that golden pocket would be where Bitcoin dominance reverts to before it be the next likely lower high. You're going to make lower lows, lower high, lower low, lower high, or lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, all the way down. It'll be like a staircase, everybody. It'll be like a staircase. And you know, it's crazy to see. This is the only chart where it's like staircase up, elevator down. You staircase up. This is the only time you want to see this, right? If you believe in crypto, you want to see this. You want to see that staircase up and then elevator down, baby. Much like back here, the last time we had altcoin season back here in 2021, that was the juicy season. Right here, this move right here. Let me get this out of the way. This move right here was your altcoin season of November 2024, that mini altcoin season. There's a much bigger one brewing, in my opinion. I think once we crack this high volume node, we're going to start capitulating the downside, crack the 21, likely to come to the 200. We already did that on the daily, likely to come to the 200 SMA, baby. Come down here to the 200 SMA, you break that. That's bear market to me for any asset in this space. You crack that 200, you'll start rolling, baby. You'll start rolling to the downside. Everything is looking good right now. Hey, let's dive on over into XRP. Sin Nasty Kid. Yeah, absolutely, brother. I'd love to look at XRP. Actually looking like one of the stronger charts in the game right now, and I'll show you guys why. Right? So let's remove our drawings right here. We talked about this move for XRP, right? The different kind of trade ideas that we're getting in here when we were pinned beneath the 200 MA and this high volume node right here. So we got the bounce out the 200 MA and we got above the high volume node. But not only did we get above the high volume node, look at this daily candle. You came back down and retested that high volume node perfectly, almost to the dollar. You see that right there? You tested that point of control. The bulls, in my opinion, the way I view the charts, and as long as we closed at this price 45 minutes from now on the daily time frame, you reclaim the point of control for XRP. You reclaim the point of control in an asset, you could target the previous highs. Previous highs being up here at about $3.01, which is the next target I have for XRP. Past that, you have, and that aligns with the 786, does it not? Yeah, it does. That's your golden pog is 618, 786. You're coming up here, likely to test that 786 again. 786s don't often get touched twice. If you double, you can double top there and roll over. Sure, that's a possibility. But I'm very bullish here on XRP being above that $2.42 level, $2.41 level with that high volume node. That point of control says everything to me. This is our ball rolling down the hill scenario, everybody. You got your ball. You start rolling. Where's the next likely place you stop? Right here at this next high volume node that's sitting at about $3.13. I think this prior high will give you a little bit of trouble, potentially, maybe. And you could argue that you could discredit this entire move here on the charts. Why? Because this was entirely news driven. This was a strategic reserve. This was China tariffs. Right back from whence you came. So very, very interesting. We'll see if that high volume node does hold up from a bearish perspective. $3.12, which would be around the 786. No, it wouldn't be. It'd be past that. Yeah, you break past this 786, this range right here. I'll put this on the charts right here. Let me get this out of here. Your next likely range for XRP is up here, whoop, in this range. In this range to me. Your 786. This is your next likely place to go. Your 786. And your high volume node. This is your last line in the sand to me for XRP before you go and test the highs. I do not think you'll test the highs again on XRP without cracking through them. I don't think that's likely. A triple top? No, not after you got a nice consolidation and Bitcoin's looking to go and test the highs. I think XRP can massively scream. Are you going to 100x XRP? No. I see a lot of crazy stuff out there on YouTube. It's going to be $10,000 by July. Impossible. That's not going to happen. Whoever's telling you that is not a trader, and they are not a trader in my opinion. And you can send them my way. They're not a trader, and they're just shilling hopium to people, and they're the person that's going to dump on them when you reach technical targets, which would be what, the 1.618 and the 2.618. And those the people that they're shilling it to, that $10,000 price target, are going to be the ones that are the suckers that are left holding the bags. We are not going to be doing that here in the rally. Could it be good long term? Absolutely, but you're not going to get a $100 or a $10,000 XRP this cycle. There is not enough money in the space. For reference, to get to a $10,000 XRP, it would be 3 times the amount of the current U.S. national debt. It would be what times more than Bitcoin. You would need to get, for a market cap, a 10,000. Yeah, it'd be insane. It'd be insane. Multiples of Bitcoin. And I just don't see that happening. Not coming in this space, especially with only 57% of the supply out. Yeah, unlikely to me. I think it's going to do well, but not $10,000. And I'll say that about everything. Bitcoin's not going to 100x. Ethereum's not going to 100x. Solana's not going to 100. Everything in the top 100, you're not going to get a 100x, in my opinion, on any of those projects. Maybe in the lower, I'd say 60 to 70 below, 60 to 70 ranking by market cap below, because then you're getting in that $1 billion range. Less than that, could one of those 100x? Sure, you're not going to get a $123 billion asset 100xing, in my opinion. And if I'm wrong, that ship sails without me, baby. That is not a risk appetite that I'd be willing to take. No way, no way. All right. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys. No, man. Hey, yeah. You text me anytime, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Yeah, XRP doing absolutely massive. I think it's doing really, really good. Reclaiming that point of control. That was a perfect retest. I see more upside here for XRP just to get that next resistance zone. You're looking at about a 17% move. I think that could happen sooner rather than later as long as Bitcoin holds. I'm not even saying Bitcoin needs to pump. But as long as Bitcoin holds the level it's holding right now, I see XRP going up to that $3.03 to $3.12 region, consolidating, and then looking to crack the highs. I think that'll take a little bit of time, potentially 2 weeks or so. I'll put that on the radar, 2-3 weeks. But I think XRP makes that move and starts consolidating between that time. Could we just go and absolutely rip for XRP? Yeah. Why do I say that? Because the amount of hype and hopium behind XRP from the general public is insane. The XRP army, the people who back this coin, the hopium that is in the space is absolutely crazy. So could it break through here and just go for the highs? Absolutely. Absolutely. The only reason I'm not being bearish on XRP, I am so bullish on XRP right now. It is absolutely crazy. However, I just want to bring reality into the space and say you're not getting to $10,000 this cycle. It is not happening. Just look at market cap. Like, it cannot happen. That would be a move that no asset has ever made ever in the history of forever by a multiples of magnitude, right? It'd be absolutely crazy. You'd be worth more money than all the, I think you'd be a fraction of, you'd be a decent fraction of the entire market cap of the United States stock market. It is not happening. It's not happening. All right. Interesting. Yeah, 3:30 a.m. is prime time, BMG Corey. I agree with you, brother. I agree with you. So in the past hour, we've had a little bit of dumpage. In the last 15 minutes, we had a little bit of a pumpage, baby. A little bit of a pumpage. Very, very interesting. Form making a little bit of a recovery there after a devastating day that they've had. Interesting. So, yeah, that's what I'm catching in the charts, guys. For those of you who don't know what Sin Nasty Kid's talking about, hey, you guys can message me at any time at BOYCECRYPTO102 on Twitter. If you guys have a trade that you want to take or something that you guys are looking and you're thinking that's juicy that you just want a second pair of eyes on, let me know. Just send me a screenshot and I'll let you know what I think. I'll pull up the chart. I'll kind of go through it in my own way and I'll be like, hey, that's a trade that I think it's good. I'll tell you this. I'll say if it's good risk reward and something that I would take, or a trade that I would take based off of, your risk profile. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. I'll never tell you what to do with your money. But if you guys want a second pair of eyes on your trade, or if you guys want to let me know something that's hot in the market, let me know. I'll bring it out on stream. I'll shout out to you guys if it's something I think it's worth shouting out. I appreciate the community and everything that you guys have done for me, man. Blowing up this this channel to where it is. I enjoy streaming every single night with you guys, and I look forward to doing it as many nights as I possibly can. All right, everybody, the stream is about concluding, baby. Concluding. The reason I say that is my lady is entering the door right now. Much love to each and every single one of you guys. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys being here with me and supporting this channel. I will see you guys tomorrow night on the live. Keep up to date with me at BOYCECRYPTO102. If I see any hot updates in the charts, I'll post them that way. Message me if you guys would like, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, BOYCECRYPTO is out, baby. We are out. Much love. I will see you guys tomorrow on the live. Thank you for being here.